Welcome back to Royals Weekly. I am your host, Marcus Mead, and joining me as always, he does his best to make it clear that he is not a common man. He's elite, everyone. My brother, Mike.
Yeah, I have an executive membership at Costco, so I don't want you looking at me in the eyes, okay? You look
Came with
down.
a powdered wig.
That's right. It came with a powdered wig, y'all. I also am the elite membership at Planet Fitness. These are not clubs that anybody can get into. Okay?
No. A lot of vetting, a lot of ancestry stuff. You got to come over on the Mayflower to get in this stuff, right? Like that's
real cream of the crop here.
Yeah. Planet Fitness, real cream of the crop. Anyway, on this week's episode, we're going to discuss a winning week from the Royals. We don't get to talk about that very often, but it was a very resounding winning week for them. So we're going to talk about the wins. We love doing that. And then we're going to talk about some things we could learn from the Royals post-trade deadline. The trade deadline is coming up in what, like 7 days maybe, or something like that, 6 days. But after that, the Royals still have a lot to learn about this team and this organization before they try and regroup for 2027. We're going to talk a little bit about that. And then, of course, we'll preview this week's games as well as the Royals continue their road trip. Make sure, though, if you'd like to hear more Royals Weekly content, that you subscribe to our Substack, royalsweekly.substack.com. You get 2 extra ad-free episodes every single week, 1 article from me, and then just extra writing and stuff as we decide that we're interested in doing it. Mike puts out an excellent episode every week called Mike's Drop. We're liking that. Changed the format recently. Mike, are you liking that new format? Does it seem better?
Loving it. Getting real creative, doing some deep dive analysis on kind of different things and really asking some deeper questions about the Kansas City
hard hitting stuff. Nobody's really willing to go to. No one's willing.
We
to
took
touch.
a look at the free agent acquisitions of JJ Piccolo this past week and kind of rated how those looked. So that was a good one.
I haven't been commuting to work lately, so I haven't been listening to podcasts as much, but I'm going to have to listen to that one because that sounds good. A lot of great stuff, royalsweekly.substack.com. It's only $5 a month. Gets you tons of extra content. We feel like it's very worth it. Also, make sure to rate and review us everywhere you can. Apple Podcasts, we love to read those reviews, and we actually have one this week, which is wonderful. We want to thank the person who wrote it. First, I have to be able to get into my phone. The person who wrote it, they write their name as Nate Yate. So thank you, Nate Yate. Maybe that's the first and last name. Maybe this person is Nate Yate.
Maybe the heading is 88.
No, I think it's Nate Yate. There's no 8 in it. It's just Y. Oh yeah, it could be 88, but the Y is capitalized, so that makes me think it's 2 names. Anyway, the title is Great Royals Content with an exclamation point. It says, new listener, but have really enjoyed listening to these episodes, and this show has become my go-to for y'all's content. Now here's the thing. This is what I thought was very brilliant by Nate Yate. I think y'all's is not you all's like Mike and I's content. I think y'all's is an abbreviation for Royals. Instead of saying, I think YALS, which I thought was very clever, right? Like, and so great job, Nate Yate. Thank you for sharing that. We really appreciate the positive review. We really appreciate all your reviews. Make sure you're leaving those like Nate Yate, or you can come up with interesting stuff like new ways to nickname the Royals. That's wonderful. And so, yeah, I'd love to hear more of that. Make sure you're leaving those comments under YouTube's and things like that. It helps people find the show. We always start the review of last week with roster news, and we'll do that again this week. There was a bunch of roster news. It was like all muddled and complicated, and most of it very low stakes, very low rent. But there was one bit of very big roster news, and so we'll talk about it, and we'll maybe mention some of the smaller stuff. Bobby Witt Jr. went on the 10-day injured list with low back tightness. You may have heard of him. He's kind of a big deal. As a result, the Royals then ended up calling up Andrew Velasquez, a middle infielder who they signed to a minor league contract back in late June. When that happened, Mike and I were like, who? Because we were
no clue
unfamiliar with Velasquez. But the big picture thing is that Bobby Witt Jr. is on the 10-day IL, and the Royals are playing with a guy named Andrew Velasquez. Mike, what are your thoughts on that trade of personnel there?
Yeah, the thoughts I wrote down were, because we did not know who Andrew Velasquez was. It's awful. It's not good, but it's what Bobby Witt Jr. needed. This whole, he's staked kind of a reputation as playing every day or almost every day. He comes out when the Royals are either blowing a team out or are getting blown out, and that is it. But in a situation like this, when you have legitimate issues with your back or a knee or whatever we've seen from him, he needs to be resting in a situation where there is absolutely no reason why he should be playing every day. If there's anything wrong with him, if there's anything wrong with Bobby Witt Jr., he should not be on the baseball field right now. And so he's too valuable to this team, this organization, way too valuable. So all for that, give him the consistent rest that he needs to get the back where he needs it. Andrew Velasquez, I talked about it with you and a friend of ours. I said, well, he can't field, but at least he doesn't hit. Like, I know he's supposed to be good in the infield. I haven't loved his infield play so far.
Made a mistake today that almost cost the Royals the game, honestly.
Communication error with Tolbert there in the middle of the game today. So not loving the Andrew Velasquez experiment, but I don't imagine it'll be a long experiment. So, yeah. My thing is just finally an IL stint for a guy who's hurt, right? It's wonderful to see. Like, I know that Garcia went on the IL, but it took him a long time to sort of fold. It's weird. Like, if we're thinking in poker terms, Garcia's was two different things too.
Yeah, it was. But like, I don't know that but there was a previous injury where he should have been IL'd and wasn't, right? Like,
True.
And so
the hamstring, he should have been down.
JJ he stays, if we're thinking in poker terms, he stays in hands way too long. Like, it's in these moments where you got to fold and play the next hand, right? Like, and so when Bobby Witt Jr., when Michael Garcia, when they get hurt, when anybody gets even a hint of hurt, especially guys who are super valuable for you, you have to fold. You have to put them on the IL in a season when you're not competitive. Sure, if the Royals were, second in the division and maybe 2 games back of the White Sox and maybe, fighting for a wild card spot, maybe then, yeah, Bobby, we're going to ask you to play through some stuff, or we're only going to, we're going to have you sit 3 days, but we're not going to put you on the IL, or something like that. But you cannot jeopardize what is now a much more important 2027 for you as a front office and for this team as a whole. You can't jeopardize that to have a guy win you 1 game and get you to 17 games under 500 instead of 18. Like, this is ridiculous. Like, and so it's great to see them finally be like, no, let's just put him on the IL. And I know some people are like, oh, but he wants to play. I don't give a shit, right? Like, I'm too inundated with this narrative of like, the player should not get to choose. There is a
players
hierarchy.
Will always choose to play.
They'll always choose to play. They'll always choose to push it, and they'll get hurt more. We've seen that so many times over the history of baseball, right? Like, that has happened so many times, right? And so what you have to do, what is in fact your job and what you're paid to do as Matt Quatrero, as JJ Piccolo, is to say, Bobby, we hear that you want to play. We also don't care because it's not your decision. It's ours, right? Like, that's the division of labor, people. That's what JJ Piccolo gets paid his money for. That's what Matt Quatrero gets paid his money for, right? Like, Bobby Witt Jr., Salvador Perez, Michael Garcia, whoever should have absolutely no say in whether or not they sit or go on the IL. And that's not up to them, right? Like, that is up to other people and absolutely should be, right? And so, yes, I don't like hearing that. I don't like seeing any of that stuff. Glad to see him on the IL, honestly, because the alternative was he just doesn't go on there and keeps hurting himself, which frankly the Royals toy with him way too much, right? Don't forget, like, he had the back tightness issue, sat a game, and then like came in and played for like 3 innings, and then they pulled him, and then they put him in the IL. They should not be toying with these things. It's ridiculous. It is the one aspect of controlling the team that gets me the most. They're not great dealing with injuries right now. It bothers me. Elsewhere on the roster news, the Royals traded, I hesitate to call him a prospect, sort of, Max Martin, or pitcher, for right-handed pitcher Nate Pearson. They activated Nate Pearson, and he came out and pitched for the first time for the Royals today. I think he threw a clean inning. Boy, he throws some heat. I'm interested to see more of him. Mike, I don't know if you have thoughts on this or care to mention anything about Nate Pearson. Feel free to not comment. Just say no comment.
No real comment. We'll see what he can provide innings wise and effectiveness wise, but we needed arms. He's an arm.
They needed arms. He's an arm. And if they get really lucky and they think they can do something with him, maybe he's a part of the bullpen next year or something. But he certainly has the size and velocity you like to see out of the bullpen. But, he also has not been very effective. So we'll see. On the field last week, it was a very good week for the Royals. They went 5-2, which brings their overall record to 45-62. Haven't been able to say that a lot this year. They swept the Giants at home to start the week and then salvaged a split from the Tigers series in Detroit. After losing the first 2 by 1 run each, they managed to win the last 2 also by 1 run each. In fact, Every game the Royals played last week was decided by one run, was a one-run game, and they won 5 of them. That's impressive in my mind. Mike, how'd you feel about
like that? Come on.
Yeah, come on. That's a tough one. How'd you feel about how they played last week?
I honestly, I was very happy with it. You know, the Giants aren't a great team and neither are the Tigers, but you get 5 wins in a week, especially the pitching matchups they were going up against in that Tigers series. That was not an easy call. And then Framber Valdez, even though he's not the Framber Valdez of Houston, he's not a bum, you know. So I was like, man, that's going to be a really tough draw to end the week after we sweep that Giants series, which I thought the pitching matchups in the Giants series were extremely favorable, but still, the Royals aren't a great team right now. You hold on to all those leads or take back leads late in games like they did today. That's a big deal. And then you're able to hold on with the bullpen. I don't think anybody, even squinting, you couldn't say is pretty. You know,
I think the bullpen blew one game. And honestly, if Alex Lang isn't your closer, right? I'm going to put closer in quotes here for those of you not watching. If Alex Lang is your closer and you only lose one of those games in a week, you're okay with that, right? Like,
well, the other closer is Steven Cruz, so let's put that in quotes too, right?
I mean, hey, I have a lot more faith in Cruz than I do in Lang, but I get your point there.
You have a lot more faith?
I have a little more faith. We'll make I have a little more faith in Cruz than Lang. I can't say a lot. That would be crazy. Yeah, it's reminding me, honestly, this last week reminded me of last season when it was like good pitching, less scoring, but they were winning. You know, like it felt more like, yeah, they'll maybe play a lot of close games, but you felt a lot more, I don't know, like reassured because you knew they were going to be in every game, and they were in every game this week. Right. And so that was something cool to see. We didn't see the big blowouts that sometimes the Royals have been putting up on the either end. Right. Because frankly, on offense, they're really banged up, or, you know, Jack had an ineffective week or something. And so they're having trouble, you know, producing a ton of runs or those big 10 or 12 run games, but they didn't give up any. We didn't see any real blow ups from starting pitchers or the bullpen that would make you say, even when bullpens blew leads, it was like a couple runs. It wasn't like, hey, come in and score 7 off our bullpen, you know, and stuff like that. So it was very much reminiscent of what we think the identity of the team should be, and probably the front office wants it to be: foundation of pitching and making sure you can, you know, have some opportunistic hitting and stuff like that. Mike, there were plenty of strong performers in this winning week. It was oddly distributed when I looked at things. It was like everybody had a pretty good week, but nobody had like a excellent week. Who did you decide to go with for a strong performer?
I went with the hero from today's game. Michael Massey had one of those Massey-like weeks, and actually he's had a Massey-like 2 weeks, that stretch. You know, you get really good Massey for 2 weeks, and then he goes dark for a month. But he was 8 for 23 this week with 4 runs scored, 3 doubles. The big home run today, big 2-run home run to give the Royals the lead. Was that in the 9th? That was the top of the 9th, I think.
I think you might have been, yeah.
3 RBI, a walk, and 6 strikeouts. No indication that Massey has, you know, really turned a corner, but it does look like one of those hot streaks that Michael Massey will give you from time to time. And it's going to be important for him this is a huge back half of the year for Michael Massey as they kind of decide what his future is.
That was the top of the 8th.
Top of the 8th, my bad.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's going to be a big back half of this year. We'll see what Michael Massey can do and show to see what kind of role he's going to earn for the team next year. I'm sure he will be on the team next year, but good to have that. Good to get somebody to step up and produce the little bit that they needed offensively.
Yeah, and I know some people are out there advocating that Michael Massey be on the trading block. And I saw a tweet from our good friend Alex Duvall, who put Massey in a category of like, they should trade this person even though they may not, right? And it's an interesting thing to consider, right? Like, Massey, as you mentioned, is a somewhat volatile hitter. He has a streaky, I guess you could say, side to him where he'll hit for a while and then he's having a very good season this year. I think I don't know what his numbers are, but I think he's over 100 weighted runs created plus. I think he's playing good defense again, but you never know when that back issue is going to flare up. You never know any of those sorts of things.
How much can you play him against lefties?
Yeah, all these sorts of things. And, you know, he could be a valuable trade chip for you. Half of the reason you would trade him is because you could get a significant return for him. And so, you know, they might think about something like that. But what he's definitely doing is helping raise his own value, and he's helping the Royals offense right now, and definitely did this last week. So that's good to see.
Yeah, he's got a 101 rated runs created plus right now.
So a league average second baseman as a hitter, above average fielder. There are a lot of teams that would want him in their lineup. We'll see if they field any calls or have any interest in Michael Massey. I'm talking about a guy they're not going to trade. In fact, he's going to have a statue outside the stadium or inside the stadium at some point. That's Salvador Perez. He's my strong performer for last week. I had somebody else chosen, honestly, because I don't know that Perez's week as a whole was huge, but we got to talk about the guy who broke the record for home runs in a career by a Royal, and that is Salvador Perez. He went 4 for 25 last week with 1 double, 3 home runs. One of them tied George Brett's record. The other one broke it. 5 RBIs, 2 walks, 7 strikeouts. It's one of those huge monumental achievements that you're going to have in a career. I think it's only a small bummer that it happened in a really down year, a year where they did not meet expectations at all. And maybe it's a tiny, tiny bummer that he did it on the road instead of at home. But you saw the joy. You saw the way his teammates supported him. I'm not big for the narrative stuff. I'm not big, I don't really watch baseball for the narratives, but it is great to see. You love that he's going to have that as something to hang his hat on. And you love that it's going to be a part of his Hall of Fame case, because I think if somebody's, advocating for Salvador Perez as a Hall of Famer, being able to say that he hit more home runs than any other Royal, including George Brett, is not a horrible thing to say, right? It makes it easier to say, if George Brett's in, why wouldn't Salvador Perez be in, right? And so love to see that for him. Love that gets to be a thing that he can do, and hopefully it takes some of the pressure off of him. I know, it's been a really down year for him this year. He has been a little hotter lately, especially in the month of July. So hopefully he can continue that and feels a little bit of stress or pressure taken off his shoulders.
Yeah, if he can get, and it's a long way, but if he can get to 375 or something, he's putting himself in that top 6, top 8 catcher home runs list.
I think he's in the top 8 right now.
And so that's big stuff. All those guys are in the Hall of Fame. I don't know if Salvador Perez makes the Hall of Fame on the first ballot, but as far as what he's done for Kansas City, what he's done for the organization, the World Series titles, the captainship, the, just ability and community stuff, I think, he's a Hall of Famer in my book.
Right.
And I couldn't ask for a better person to be in this organization, and I'm sure he'll get a front office job or some sort of job that he wants, an ambassadorship job for the organization too, and he well deserved as well.
Right.
And it is not a when you think long-term impact of a Salvador Perez, it is not a coincidence that Salvador Perez has had the career he has here, and the Royals have been so successful signing players out of Venezuela.
Not an accident. Coincidence. Not at all a coincidence.
That it does pay long-term dividends to have a Salvador Perez outside of just what he did on the field.
Exactly. And it could even pay more. I mean, we've seen him take young, especially Venezuelan, but definitely Latin players under his wing in various ways. We've definitely seen him take young catchers under his wing and help sort of their maturity and their development as catchers. And it wouldn't be outside the realm of possibility to have him come to spring training, to have him work with catchers. He's the type of dude who, even though he doesn't need to be involved with baseball once his career is over, because he's made so much money doing it, that you could imagine him wanting to, right? Because the guy, I've never seen anybody love baseball as much as he loves baseball, right? And so he might just decide, hey, I want to do something to help. I'm going to go do instructional stuff at spring training with the catchers, right? I would be honestly, I'd be shocked if that doesn't happen at this point, right? And so we'll see what we see from him beyond this year, but great to see him grab that record. Great to see him just hammer another chisel right into his statue that's going outside Kauffman Stadium, and then eventually outside the new stadium. Mike, not everybody took their steps towards the Hall of Fame this week. Who did not shine for the Royals so much this last week?
Yeah, not everybody did that. That's I'm going with my week performer here, a guy who's got Hall of Fame potential, but we'll see if it pans out. Jack Caglione, not the slugger that we needed this week. He was 0 for 16, 0 walks, 4 Ks. That's his entire stat line for the week. People were, and this is why we as Royals fans, we want to believe in having that big run producer in the middle of the lineup so bad, because it's been so long since we had one that was consistent anyway, that after that July, people were like, yep, Jack's it. We got it. We got an all-star, guys. We got a guy here.
I think it was late June, early July. It was one.
Whatever. Yeah, sorry.
3
Yeah,
weeks.
it was the June. Sorry, it was the June where he had 9 home runs in a month.
Yeah.
The 1 month does not a career make, and if you found a way to do something well as a hitter in Major League Baseball, every single pitching coach is going to work to chisel away at that, to cut that down, to make sure that they don't give you any opportunities to do that. And that's what makes guys either great hitters or really consistent. Is it doesn't matter. The best, most consistent run producers, your Manny Ramirez's, your
Miguel
Cabreras, all the guys in the middle of the line, Jim Thome's, all these dudes, all those dudes, they made adjustments in a way that, like, hey, our swing is the adjustment. My ability to hit is the adjustment. I can hit anywhere in the strike zone. It doesn't matter what another team is going to do for me for a plan, because my weaknesses don't define me. My weaknesses don't define who I am as a hitter, and I can easily change anything. That's what the most consistent guys do. If Jack can figure out how to do that, if he can figure out how to minimize those weaknesses and maximize the strengths, he can do it. But right now they're testing him every single time he finds something he's good at. They're testing him. And he's got to figure out a way to pass that test.
The reason, and we talked about this when he was in his hot streak, like what happens now, right? What happens now that he's feeling good about himself? Does he go back into like swing mode? And that's exactly what happened, right? Like the book hasn't changed. They're still just trying to get him to expand his zone. The difference is now he's doing it. Now he's expanding his zone greatly. And he's finding out, wait, if I go back to that approach I had previously, that's really, but I sort of fall out of it. My timing isn't as good. My hand-eye coordination, the ball doesn't look like a watermelon right now. Like when you get to that place, guess what? You're going to have really bad outcomes, right? Because you're too swing happy, right? Like look at the approach reverted right back to what he was early in the year and last year after he had some success, right? Like, and that's what you have to learn to do as a developing hitter is, hey, I have an approach. I'm always going to be in it. Even when I'm successful, I'm not going to let that make me more swing happy. I'm not going to let that make me more aggressive, because if it does, all of this goes away. It just unravels. That's exactly what happened to him. And he's struggling with it now because he's like, they'll throw him a pitch a foot above the strike zone. He's swinging right now, right? Because he's in that mindset of, I'm in the zone. I'm in the zone. You're not in the zone. You're 0 for 16 this week. Like you're too aggressive. Take some walks. Stop swinging so much. Pretty simple.
The thing, and this is just the eye test. I haven't looked at the numbers on this or anything, but it does seem like also those pitchers are shying away from throwing him breaking stuff early in counts. It's like, we're going to throw fastballs early in counts, and they're going to be outside the zone or on the edge of the zone or somewhere where he can get himself out. And some of that stuff he was feasting on was, they're going to throw me a breaking pitch. It could be elevated. They're going to throw elevated pitches in the zone, and I'm going to do damage on them early in counts. That's over, Jack Caglione. They're not giving you anything to swing at unless you can prove that you will lay off some of the garbage they put up there.
I'm going with a weak performer who many people may have predicted because it was a pretty predictable one to go with, and that is Alex Lang. He gave up 2 earned runs, 2 runs total in 3 innings pitched, 1 home run, 1 walk, 6 strikeouts, 1 blown save. 1 blown save. Obviously, that's not a terrible line. I mean, it's bad as a reliever to give up 2 runs in 3 innings, but it's only 1 blown save. It's 1 walk and 6 strikeouts. But I think we've all sort of checked out of the Alex Lang experience at closer, or that experiment. I think we're all kind of done with that. I think the Royals are kind of done with that. Honestly, they could have brought him out today to close, right? Because I think he's only pitched 1 day previously. Like he's not pitched. This wouldn't have been his 3rd day in a row, I don't think. But instead, they decided to go with Steven Cruz to close the game out. I think that says something. I think the volatility of Lang, the walking guys, the hitting batters, the giving up home runs, there's too much volatility in him. And we knew this would be the case, but they moved him there because they wanted a guy who could get strikeouts in the closing role, right? But it hasn't been effective. He gets about 75% of the save opportunities right. Like he ends up saving the game, but he's also going to definitely blow 25% of them. It's like, well, that's tough. Like that's a tough position.
And the 75% is going to take years off your life.
Years off.
There's going to be guys on base like crazy.
You're going to be on base. You're going to have to be warming someone else up just in case, all that sort of thing. And so, he's not the answer, and he didn't have a great week this last week. I think we're learning that he's not. Honestly, if some other team thinks he might be in the bullpen, I would be open to trading Alex Lang in a heartbeat if I could get anything decent for him. But we'll see on that front. Mike, in a winning week, it's time to be positive with our theme. I think. What do you got for that theme?
I went to possibly America's greatest songwriter of all time. And I'm not talking about Neil Diamond, although, he's on the list too. I went with Bob Dylan's great song, How Does It Like a Rolling Stone? One we've all heard, I think, possibly. Hopefully you've heard it. But I went with the line, when you ain't got nothing, you got nothing to lose. And I'm going to expand on that too, because the next line is also pertinent here. Okay. You're invisible now. You have no secrets to conceal. And that's really where the Royals are. You have nothing to lose at this point, but also you've been so stripped away of everything. You can't hide
everything. What are you hiding?
Everybody knows what you are.
You're playing dudes you signed to AAA contracts 2 weeks ago. Like, what are we talking about?
There is nothing to hide. Like, you cannot hide anything on this team. Oh, you got a little bit of a weak bullpen? Well, maybe we can cover that up. Nope, there's no covering up anything. You are exposed, Royals. And Bob Dylan knew it, but that's okay, because being that way, and this is the point of that song at the time, is freeing. It's a freeing place to be. And so you get to go out there and play like your hair's on fire. You get to have a winning week. One of the, split with a tough Tigers rotation in your face, and then, feel like you played some decent baseball, won some close games. That's a good way to feel in a season that has not had a lot of moments that were good, good times to feel. So
you're out there with the woodland fairies. You're so free.
We're free. Me and the woodland fairies. Okay. Bob Dylan understood it then. We need to understand it now.
Yep. It's a good feeling. No, it's a bad feeling because it took a lot of losing to get there, but that's okay.
Injuries and losing got us to this place, but damn it, we're going to play the hand we're dealt.
I went with another, what we'd call classic American rock song from another classic American music group, Aerosmith. Yes, I interpret this line to be about cocaine usage, but
I was just saying, this is a family show, Mark. What do we?
It's a family show, apparently. But it doesn't have to be about that, honestly. And so here's what the line is, and everybody knows it. It's from their hit "Dream On." Every time I look in the mirror, all these lines in my face getting clearer. That just tells me, to me, that came to my mind because I'm like, what is this last week about? Well, it's about learning, right? Like things became more clear every week for the Royals from here on out. It just should be more clarity. You mentioned like when you get stripped away of all these things, where are you? Well, you're learning a lot about who you actually are as a team, right? Like you're learning a lot about who's actually viable in the bullpen and where you want guys in the lineup and can this guy be useful at multiple positions and stuff like that. All these lines in our face getting clearer, guys. We see ourselves more clearly today than we ever have. And I swear, I didn't take a whole bunch of peyote before I got on here. Okay. Mike, what household chores do you refuse to do yourself?
Window cleaning, pressure washing, and most importantly, gutter cleaning.
And why is that?
If I fall off the ladder, it's unlikely I'll land in a pile of leaves this time. Not like the last 3 times, or that one time I just landed on the ground.
If you're wise like Mike, reach out to the professionals at Window Wolf for all your window cleaning, gutter cleaning, and pressure washing needs. Window Wolf is a locally operated small business with all the professional know-how to keep your feet on the ground and your house or business shining bright. I've known the owner of Window Wolf for years, and I can tell you there's no one more reliable for high-quality service. Plus, Window Wolf is revolutionizing home maintenance with their new instant price calculator, which gives you a free quote without a home visit or entering a bunch of your personal information. Window Wolf is making the process easy and the price affordable. And for a limited time only, you can get 50% off when you book using their instant price calculator. Just visit windowwolf.com. That's windowwolf.com. And use the code Royals50. That's Royals50, no spaces, when using the instant price calculator and save big bucks on quality service.
Is there anything more annoying than the home visit quote? Ugh. I hate letting strangers into my house just to give me an insane quote.
It's wild. It's weird. Be smart. Let the pack handle your pains with Window Wolf. The Royals have nothing to play for. They're out of contention, so the rest of the season is really just about acquiring what they can at the trade deadline and then learning about what they have in the organization that might help them moving forward. We're hoping for a useful return at the trade deadline, That's about 6 days away. But once that's passed, there are several things the Royals front office can learn for the rest of the season. And that will be the focus of our spotlight segment today. Mike, as you think about the rest of the season, what do you think is the most important thing for the Royals to learn in that time?
I thought this was a really good question. Yeah,
I'm a great question asker.
Time thinking about it, not like your other garbage questions I just usually breeze over. Okay, but I think I boiled it down to this. I think I selected the one I think is most important. If Jack and what they need to figure out in the second half is if Jack and Carter can be counted on as consistent producers for the offense next season, because when we get into next season, there's going to be a choice to make. The Royals last offseason and the offseason before that said, we want to find some sort of consistent producing bat that we can put in the middle of our lineup. 2 off seasons in a row, they have not been able to do that. Okay. Now the hope was,
and to be clear, that's probably a good thing because every guy that they tried to target in free agency has been garbage, just to be clear.
And that's fine, but it's your job as an organization to find somebody who can help you score runs. And they've noticed that's been a problem the last couple of years, hoping that Jack Caglione, Carter Jensen develop enough from their kind of mini rookie seasons at the end of last year into this year. They haven't done that. Okay. You can say, oh yeah, that Carter's been good. Jack's been good at times. Neither one of them have an OPS over like 750. Okay. Their weighted runs created plus, I'm sure, are somewhere around 100. That's not going to be a great middle of the order kind of bat for you. And so that's the question we really need to get answered. You have mentioned many times that free agency looking for middle of the order run producers is extremely difficult, especially for a team like the Royals. And so that's going to be the same conundrum that they run into this offseason if Jack or Carter can't prove, hey, I can be a consistent run producer for you in the middle of the lineup, or, I know they like to play Carter at the front, but if he can produce runs in the middle, he needs to be in the middle. And so that's the thing we've got to get answered. Is the lineup something we can fix? Is run production something we can fix in-house with just the development of one or both of these guys? Or are we again in the mode of, hey, we need to think about trading for somebody. We need to think about signing somebody who can come fill a need that has been a need for this team for now going on 3 or 4 years.
Yeah, I mean, that is an important question, I think. But for me, that's not the most important question. And the most important question for me is all related to like pitching and especially the rotation, right? Because the rotation is absolutely decimated right now in some ways. I mean, we've spoken about like all the injuries, of course, but you also have Seth Lugo and the sort of step back he's taken in terms of effectiveness. You have Noah Cameron and the huge regression we've seen from him over the course of this year. The very much uncertainty related to Lewinter Avila. There is no certainty in this rotation right now. And this team can't win without a foundation of pitching. I think this last week actually just showed that to us. Like they had their first winning week, and it's probably the best pitching week they've had maybe all season, right? Like, at least in terms of run prevention. And so who is going to pitch in this rotation next year, and how many additional rotation pieces do they need, to me is the central question of the team. Yes, they need to remake the bullpen. Yes, they need to know whether or not this team offensively can be what it, can be something that can contribute to wins and losses, or to wins rather. But I think for the last month and a half, we've seen enough offensive production that if they solidified that rotation and they got the offensive production we've seen for the last month and a half, I think this is a playoff team, or maybe not a playoff team. This team is definitely above 500, right? Like if that's the case, if they solidified the rotation on the bullpen and got the offensive production they've had for the last month and a half, I think they're good to go, right? But there are just so many question marks about the rotation, especially if they do something like trade Seth Lugo or Michael Wacha, something that I think they should do, but that just creates even more questions for the rotation next year, right? And you mentioned like the notion of like, well, do they invest in a free agent bat? I think they're more comfortable with, and I think they should more highly consider investing in a mid-tier rotation piece. I think makes a lot more sense than investing in a hitter, especially a hitter like we've been seeing lately on the market, where it's like you're 28, 29, 30, you're going to get paid $25, $30 million a year to have a 680 OPS, which is what we're seeing from Bo Bichette and all these other guys, Kyle Tucker, and all these huge free agents on the market who just cannot hit anymore, right? Like it's a weird phenomenon, but like if you go look at free agent bats from the last 2 years, they've been terrible.
Mike, here's my roster. Okay, real quick on that, because I think you're right. I do think you're right. I think there's just so much kind of, I don't want to say uncertainty is not the word I'm looking for, but like there's so much possible risk to that starting rotation. You said something about they need to acquire like a mid-tier starting rotation. I think that's a given at this point. I think with what we're losing and the injuries we're coming off of, you can pretty much mark down. I'm not talking about a Randy Dobnak either. Maybe they bring Dobnak back too, but I'm talking about going out and signing a guy that you feel pretty good about, a la Michael Lorenzen, like they did, or even you can think back to like when they got Edinson Volquez. That was a guy who had good years, was kind of towards the end of his career and was a good starter, not an elite starter. I could see them going and getting a guy like that on a 2 or 3 year deal. Completely would be fine with that. I just think that with, the age thing you're talking about with Seth Lugo, that also applies to Salvador Perez in the lineup as well. You're talking about a year older Salvador Perez. You're talking about, another year of Vinny Pasquantino and, the injury history that he has and all that sort of stuff. So I agree with what you're saying. I'm going to get into why I don't full-heartedly think that starting rotation is the biggest deal moving forward into this second half of the season.
You'll get plenty of time to explain why you're wrong. This roster clearly isn't capable of making the playoffs. We know that it's not going to make the playoffs. Mike, what segments of the roster do you think deserve reconsideration over the rest of the season?
Well, yeah, here's the consideration. The bullpen, complete teardown. That thing's got to be complete.
I think there are a couple of pitchers who should probably be part of next year's, but close to complete, yes.
And I think that's what we're kind of seeing, the setup for that. Like trade them all off, put in Nate Pearsons and the Scott Barlows and the Scott Alexanders. Both Scotts get a chance. Do all that.
Royals are going to pitch Scott Barlow in 2026. This is crazy.
He's going to be closing games for this team in September. You wait.
Throwing 92 and 90% sliders.
I was going to say, just throwing slider every pitch. So that's a complete teardown for me. The offensive questions are more related to volatility and uncertainty. I've been stating for a while, I think the most important aspect of an offense is consistency in run producing, not necessarily whole numbers. How consistently do you put up 5-6 runs to give your team a chance to win? I think that's going to be the biggest kind of question that we need to figure out going forward in this second half. Why I still think there's a lot to work with on the pitching side. Okay. Yes, you're going to lose Bubic. Yes, you're going to lose Reagans. And now there's uncertainty on Kolek too, because we just don't know.
He's been moved to the 60-day IL.
So. Yes, but we don't have, all we have now is flexor strain still getting second opinion. And he's
getting a second opinion. Yes, come on, guys. We've all been here before. Come on.
Yeah, we know. It's likely not a good outlook for Stephen Kolek either. But you're getting Bergert back. You're getting Caderna back. Avila, yes, you and I still feel like there's some uncertainty if he's a starter, and his better role might be in the bullpen. But honestly, lately he's looked a little bit better. So maybe this second half of the year gives us reconsideration on that. Can he be a starter? We'll see. The second half of the year is going to be a big one for Luinder Avila and the trajectory of his career. But I do think you're going to have those guys, Noah Cameron. You've got guys you can kind of count on, Waka, Lugo. I don't expect either one of them to be traded, although it could happen. So I do think you have pieces there. You bring in 1 or 2 veteran guys like Lorenzen kind of signing on 1 or 2 year deals. And I think you have a starting rotation that won't be great, but will be stable. I can't say that about the offense. I don't have any confidence that the offense is going to be anything better than what it has been the last 2 years.
Yeah, I mean, that's the difference between you and me. Is I believe in what I've seen from the offense for the last month and a half, which has been better than what it has been the last 2 years. And so,
why has it been better?
It's been better because it's deeper. It has Lane Thomas and Isaac Collins instead of freaking Hunter Dozier and Hunter Renfroe, or not Hunter Dozier, Hunter Renfroe and MJ Melendez. Honestly, like
those
that's
guys
why
were
it's
on the
better.
team the whole year.
I know, but early on in the year, they had Vinny Pasquantino and Salvador Perez filling the role of MJ Melendez and Hunter Renfroe, right? Like, and so now that they aren't, the absolute worst hitters in Major League Baseball, this team starts to look like an actual professional lineup. And if you look at their numbers since the start of June, they're pretty good. Like they're scoring, over 4.5 runs a game. They're maybe in the top 15 or top 16 and weighted runs created plus. And, they're not a world beating offense. They're an average offense. But before the season started, all we asked for was for the offense to be average and the rotation in the bullpen to be the same way they had been in 2025. We may be getting the average offense right now, but the bullpen and the starting rotation are in shambles, right? Like, and so that's the real issue, right? I feel like we aren't acknowledging that this offense is the best offense they've had in 3 years. It's probably better than the one in 2024 even. It's just that one had some really lucky outcomes that I think helped, but honestly, it's better.
What I'm hearing you say is I'm going to rely on Nick Lofton, Tyler Tolbert, Isaac Collins to be consistent offensive producers for me next year. They're going to be the ones that make our offense average.
I think they have a better chance of doing that than, say, an MJ Melendez and Hunter Renfroe did, because those are players who have excellent approaches at the plate, or at least Nick Lofton and Isaac Collins do. And so what you're going to get from them, right? Everybody doubted Isaac Collins' ability to come out and be a league average hitter again this year. He's done it. Why? Because he's the same hitter all the damn time. So's Nick Lofton, the same hitter. So you're going to get roughly that from Nick Lofton. You're going to get roughly that from Isaac Collins. We're not asking them to be world beaters. We're asking them to have a lineup 1 through 9 that has roughly league average hitters all the way up and down. That is where they want to be. That is the recipe. All they're trying to do is recreate the Milwaukee Brewers lineup here in Kansas City. That's why they brought in Connor Dawson, because they want 9 league average hitters more than they want 3 superstars and 6 outs in the lineup, right? Like, and that's what they're doing, right? Like, and so
yeah. Right now,
I'm
I see
with where their offense
like 2 or 3 league average hitters,
but that's not true. That's quantifiably false, right? Because
I know, I understand.
Carter Jensen, Jack Caglione,
I get
all
that.
these guys.
They've got 5 or 6
right?
guys. I think there's still problems producing runs in this thing, but in this lineup. But we'll see for next year. I don't know. I think you're still relying on a lot of guys that don't have great and long track records at even being league average hitters. But we'll see.
I mean, they don't have long track records, but I don't know that that's necessarily what you have to base decisions on. I mean, there are, like I said, go to free agency. There's dudes with a whole bunch of long track records who aren't league average hitters this year. Right. And that's just how it goes. Right. Like, and so you might as well have more faith in the guy who's making nothing because, and just showed you he can be a league average hitter who you were with every day interacting with, than the guy who, is going to make $20 million a year and has no reason to really strive to continue to be good at his job. Right. Like, and so I have a lot of skepticism about the free agent route or adding bats and stuff like that. Now, you want to do it in trade, and the guys are cheap. Sure. That's fine. Right. Like, and Lane Thomas, it was a cheap 1-year deal that worked out, and they maybe could try something like that. But you have to answer the question of, like, who's in the bullpen, who's in the rotation. Otherwise you're nowhere. You're absolutely nowhere. Right. Like, if you can't know, will Avila stick in the rotation? Will Cameron rebound? Can Cruz and Beck Way be pieces in the bullpen? I mean, I like the idea of tear the bullpen down, but you cannot find 8 bullpen pieces in one offseason, right? Like, that's just not a realistic approach. And so they need to find what bullpen pieces can stick. Maybe it's Nate Pearson. Maybe it's Way and Cruz. Maybe it's,
maybe it's a guy they bring in when they trade somebody else.
Right. Maybe it's some of that. Maybe it's, even a guy within the organization. Maybe Steven Zobak somehow makes a late season bullpen appearance or something. They have to find some internal solutions with this pitching staff, because if they want to turn it around in one offseason, it's going to be really tough to do. Even if they devote all their resources to pitching, that's tough to do. And so we'll see. Mike, some evaluation should be of prospects and non-prospects in AAA. Will these guys be any good do they have a shot to contribute major league level? Are there any players in AAA you want to see get a long opportunity for the rest of the season?
Well, I'm going to give you 3 guys that we've kind of already mentioned. But like John Rave, we saw him come up, do pretty well in a very limited amount of time that he got to play, or limited number of bats. The time was kind of a long time. They just never played him. So I think John Rave deserves a shot in there. I think Brett Squires might as well, right? Might as well put him in there and see, because if you put Brett Squires, if you bring him up and get a look at him, that'll really tell you if trading Vinny Pasquantino is an option in this offseason. Okay. And so I want to look at Brett Squires and then Matthew Lugo. One, I want to, and the bat, yes, is going to be important for him, the most important part. But I want to see, can he help play center field? Can he really play center field to an adequate level to where you feel okay, maybe getting rid of Kyle Isbell this offseason or working them in a platoon in some way next year to produce more offense? Completely okay with that. Those are the three I would look at. The scary ones, the scary thing is this. Nobody on the pitching side tickles my giblets in the old AAA thing. It is bleak in AAA for the pitching staff.
It's like an opening day roster from 2012.
It's really, really bad. So there wasn't any of the pitching staff that I really that I care to look at. I think when they're trying to bring in guys during this trade deadline, I expect them to go look for guys who are maybe already at the AA or AAA level on the pitching side that deserve a promotion or, something like that, especially in the pen. But those are the three I would definitely try to get a look at, especially Brett Squires and Matthew Lugo.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. I think Rave and Squires make sense for sure. I think Lugo probably does too. I'm going to throw out a name for you, and I'm not saying I think this guy should get a chance. I'm just throwing this out there. Okay. I'm going to read you a stat line. This is a stat line since July 1st for a AAA hitter. He's hitting 373 with a 405 on base and a 733 slugging since July 1st. Yeah. He's got 5 straight games with a home run at this point. Can you guess who that is?
Gavin Cross?
It is Gavin Cross, right? And so obviously his overall season numbers aren't very good. He had struggled for at least a couple months. His June wasn't that bad, but his July has been very hot. And so, I don't know if it's this year, honestly, because I'd want to see more sustained success. And the expected numbers are okay, but they're not great. So he's outplaying his expected numbers right now. But they need solutions, and it's worth giving guys chances because you don't know, right? Like maybe he has found something and he's ready to make a major league roster at some point, right? Like the pitching should scare all of us because the AAA cupboard is now barren. And so I don't know what they do I imagine the trade deadline will be targeting pitching heavily, right? And so I hope that's the case because they kind of need that kind of help. Royals Weekly is brought to you by All in Physical Therapy, who don't just offer the best in physical therapy in the Kansas City Metro. They also offer the best in summer speed and conditioning programs for youth athletes who want to make big gains.
Everyone focuses on the speed, but the conditioning, it's the part that really sucks.
Yeah, it's tough. If your child is interested in getting the most out of their athleticism, check out videos of All In's summer speed and conditioning programs on their Instagram feed. And of course, All In always offers the best physical therapy for post-surgery or athletic injury patients as well. They offer a personalized one-on-one experience to meet the specific therapy goals you have.
One-on-one is good. That way the therapist knows the weird shape of your hip and why you can't touch your knees.
You mean your toes? I
do not mean my toes.
Learn more about how All In Physical Therapy can get your body on track at allin-pt.com. That's ALLIN-pt.com. Or give these very nice people a call at 816-427-5300. That's 816-427-5300. All In Physical Therapy, your recovery goals are their number one priority. The Royals continue their road trip this week with a 3-game series in Minnesota against the Twins and then a 3-gamer in Colorado against the Rockies. So they should have some chance to win some games this week. The Rockies are absolute garbage. Mike, tell us a little about the Minnesota Twins.
The Twins of the Minnesota land of 10,000
The greater
lakes.
Minneapolis area.
Greater Minneapolis area. Way to go. Mall of America, y'all. 53 and 54 for the third place team in the AL Central, Minnesota Twins. That first game is going to give us Seth Lugo versus Taj Bradley, the 25-year-old righty out of Redan High School in Georgia. He's got a 3.69 ERA and a 1.22 whip right now. having a solid season there. Taj Bradley, 4-seam fastball at 96 to 97, a cutter, a splitter, and a curveball. The Royals might need to hunt some fastballs in this game. The expected numbers aren't it against that pitch aren't very good. The cutter is very good.
Are very good. The expected numbers against his fastball are good.
Because there's two, very good. Two fastballs. Says the cutter is deadly. So the cutter's a really good pitch for him. Game 2 will be a familiar foe. We do not have a starting pitcher for the Royals, but we get familiar foe Joe Ryan, the 30-year-old righty out of Cal State Stanislaus. He's having another great year at 3.38 ERA and a 1.10 whip. One of the best fastballs in baseball. 4-seamer at 93 to 94, a sweeper, a splitter, a curveball, a sinker, and a slider. Gets great extension, great fastball shape, doesn't walk anyone, really knows what he's doing up there on the mound.
I do believe he was scratched from his most recent start, and so we'll see if he is healthy for this outing. He's on the probables list, but he was scratched for this most recent start with arm fatigue, I believe.
Ooh, let's see how unfatigued that arm can get in 5 days. Mm-hmm. We'll see. That third game is going to be another familiar opponent. We do not have a Royals starting pitcher. I will say this, that Joe Ryan game is likely a Dobnak. That would be Dobnak's turn.
Let's call it a Dobnak. That's a Dobnak.
Likely Dobnak. And then after that is the game that they used, I think, Beckway as an opener last time for Noah Cameron. So could be those guys. We don't know. But in that last game, no announced starter for the Royals yet. But we will see Bailey Ober. Should be Ogre because he's a giant out there. 31-year-old right-handed pitcher out of College of Charleston, 4.56 ERA, 1.25 whip. His calling card pitch is a changeup. He throws a 4-seam fastball in the upper 80s and low 90s. Gets great extension on that because he's a giant. Slider, sweeper, sinker, curveball. Makes his fastball a little bit better, that extension, but teams are still slugging at 585 against it, so that's pretty good for the hitter anyway. His strikeout rate is down to 17.5%, which is bad. Bailey Ober as a guy who's given the Royals problems at times, but then I feel like the Royals have also knocked him out of games in the first or second inning a time or two. So
he's their weakness. Soft tossers who can just induce weak contact, they're horrible against them.
Yeah. Well, we get killed by Joe Ryan, but I think one time we did have a really big game against him, so maybe we can do that again.
After that, they're off to Denver to face what I consider the laughingstock of Major League Baseball.
Let's say the Rockies have assumed their regular position at the bottom of every standing.
Yes.
All right.
They're terrible. They are 42-55, which is last in the NL West. They are the 28th ranked offense in terms of weighted runs created plus, with a 91 weighted runs created plus as an offense. They're getting good seasons from some guys I barely know. TJ Rumfield, 126 weighted run created plus for him. You might think, is he hit? That's in 400 plate appearances. He's doing fine. Hunter Goodman, a 125 weighted runs created plus, and then Mickey Moniak, who was a very high draft pick many years ago, has kind of found and recreated his career in Colorado with a 123 rated runs created plus this year. So he's doing pretty well. Offense, still not good. They don't have any superstars and they're not very deep as a lineup, but their pitching is definitely worse. Right now, we know how tough it is to pitch in Colorado. They're making it look even tougher than it actually is. As a team, they have a 5.49 ERA. That's dead last in Major League Baseball. Their starter ERA is also dead last. They have a 6.00 starter ERA. For the Colorado Rockies. No starter for them has an ERA under 4.69. Right? And so rough starting pitching from that group. Their relief core, not that much better. They have a 4.92 reliever ERA, which is like 28th in baseball. But really that starting rotation is awful. And the Royals hopefully can score quite a few runs in the thin air of Denver, Colorado. Royals Weekly is brought to you by Eric Oxer of West USA Realty. Word spreading about the hottest realtor in the Phoenix area. This kid's got the know-how. He's got the drive. He's got the thoughtful care to help you secure your dream retirement home. And let's face it, Phoenix is a dream. Sun, golf, baseball.
Imagine a place where you can watch baseball year-round. Year-round.
Every day of the year. Eric Oxer ranked in the top 3% of all agents in Arizona so far this year. Why? Because for Eric, it's not about him. It's about you. He's going to spend day and night grinding to find you the house of your dreams and get you the best price for it.
I want a house with a Wendy's inside it. Can he make that happen?
I mean, no, but I think he'll try his hardest. Find Eric Oxer of West USA Realty online at ericoxer.com. That's ERICKAUXIER.com. Or just give him a call or shoot him a text at 480-383-9745. That's 480-383-9745. Be wise. If you're ready to make the move, let Eric make the experience all about you. We'll end this week's episode like we end every episode with the Just a Bit Outside segment. This is where we talk about something that's interesting to us outside the world of baseball. Mike and I are very diverse people. We like rich, interesting things. We like books, movies. Mike likes magic, those sorts of things.
Leather-bound chairs.
When I say magic, I mean like the stuff you do with your hands, but also Magic the Gathering, like the card game. Mike loves both of them. Mike, what was in your interest this last week? What happened to you?
Well, a lot of different things, but the thing I've been like reading a lot about recently is Kansas City and like the World Cup's effect on Kansas City. And I just found it very interesting. One thing that kind of universally became clear to me is how much the World Cup like kind of elevated Kansas City in its status. And if you don't know, Kansas City is the smallest population city that was allowed to host games for the World Cup. We had several teams choose to use the Kansas City area as host sites. And just about everything I've read was about how well Kansas City hosted this event. And like hidden jewel of the Midwest kind of stuff as people, start to see the things that we have to offer. And I was sitting at dinner last night with a group of our friends from high school, and we were talking about the city of Martin City. We were talking about the city of Martin City and like how it punches above its weight when it comes to restaurants. Cause there's like several great restaurants in Martin City. We were eating at a Martin City Brewing. We were eating the one in Lee Summit. We were talking about the original one in Martin City and the barbecue they have there and the Mexican food they have there. But then I think like that applies to Kansas City as well. Like the food scene in Kansas City is quite good. It's robust. It's great. The things that we have that are, I don't know, we call them tourist attractions, but the attractions that you can go do, the things you can go do are great. Kansas City punches above its weight population wise when it comes to the things it offers culturally, I believe. Okay. 2 professional sports teams that we can
more than 2.
watch.
What are we talking about?
2 in the major 3 sports. Also, we have soccer, 2 professional soccer teams as well. We now have a professional softball team as well, which is I've heard is a great time. But like just so much stuff to do. Our zoo is a fantastic place. We've got things that can be done. Union Station on the river, Negro Leagues Museum, the World War I Museum. We've got all these different things that I don't think outside of Kansas City many people really realize or know about. They seem like really well-kept secrets outside the Midwest. And it was good to see. Every time I read those articles and they talk about those things, it's good. It feels good. It feels good to like, hey, my city showed up and represented in a way that I think was very good. And now other people are going to hear about these things that we take advantage of or sometimes even take for granted because we live here.
Yeah, it's one of those things that, yes, it came with a cost. And I think it's the public's, duty, responsibility to sort of question whether or not the cost is worth the payoff. But there is a payoff, and we do acknowledge that, it did elevate the status of the city. It did let the rest of the world sort of know about Kansas City and all the excellent things that happen here. And the reviews that from everyone I've talked or I've heard from, whether they be players on the host team or on the teams that stayed here or fans coming in, they were just rave reviews. Like everything I heard about Kansas City was highly positive, and that's great to see because I love this city. I think you're right. I think it offers way more culturally than you would think from its size and things like that. And so, yeah, it's a wonderful thing to appreciate. I think about that a lot, actually. Yeah, I'm talking about a TV show. And I know I pointed out a couple weeks ago that I started rewatching this TV show with my partner who's never seen it. But man, watching it just reminds me of how freaking good it is and how, I mean, she and I have been talking about how you would never be able to make a TV show like this today, right? And the TV show I'm talking about is West Wing, right? If you've never seen West Wing, it's on Netflix. Go watch it. You will get hooked and stay hooked the entire time. It is just, the writing on it is so good. It is like impossible not to get hooked by this show. Like I said, I've already seen it, but when I sit down and it's playing, I can't get up. It's just too good. Like it's way too good. It's written by Aaron Sorkin, at least for the first 4 seasons. And if you don't know who he is, he wrote Moneyball,
a legend,
The Social Network, and Few Good Men, TV and a bunch of amazing television shows and movies, right? But you see the difference between, so this show was started in 1999 and ran until like 2006 or something like that. You see the difference in the way TV and film production is done now, where every show has to be like as low budget as possible. You can't invest in the writing staff. You can't have large casts, all these sorts of things. West Wing must have had an enormous budget for its time because it has a huge cast. And I'm not talking just the main cast. They always have special guests and guest stars. And like, it's just an enormous show. Like there's a lot of extras. There's a lot of sets. There's a lot of stuff. There's obviously a ton of writing that goes into the show too. And so it's one of those things where like, boy, that level of investment really paid off in quality because you're seeing intricate television. And it's hard to imagine now, but back then they made 22 45-minute episodes every year. They made one a week for like 9 months. The notion that somebody could do that with a show this intricate today, just impossible. I can't even imagine it. It would never happen. It would never. Shows like this today, maybe they're on Showtime or not Showtime. Maybe nothing's on Showtime. Maybe they're on, maybe they're on HBO. Maybe they're on like Apple TV,
Apple
like Severance.
TV will do stuff like that. Yeah.
But you get 10 episodes and they come out once every 2-3 years, right? Like they did this every year, 22 episodes a year for 7 years, right? Like, and it's just an amazing feat of television making. And I think we should appreciate it. Yes, it is a show about politics. Yes, it is a show that follows around a Democratic presidency and things like that. But, to me, it also offers just amazing insight to look at the way sort of politics was perceived in the late 90s and early 2000s versus how it's perceived now. It's a very interesting thing. But the storytelling is immaculate. The humor is just amazing. I can't recommend it enough. Go watch West Wing if you've never seen it. It's totally, totally worth it.
Yeah, I'll double that endorsement. I've watched it. I'm not as obsessed with it as you are, but I have seen it and loved it as well. The thing to me that imagine if in the late 90s when Aaron Sorkin is developing the show, if anybody had come in and said, hey, when you're writing Aaron Sorkin, you need to make sure that you're writing a show that people can watch in the background when they're playing on their phone or doing something else. Can you imagine that?
Never been a thing. He would have thrown whatever he had at him.
Yeah. Writers who get deals and stuff like that, or people who produce TV shows now are being told by streaming services they need to keep that in mind. Like how much are people going to want to watch this when they're doing something else?
And it destroys the flow of a thing when you have a character being like, let me explain what I'm doing so the person who's on their phone because nobody talks like that. Nobody narrates their own experiences live in real time. It's ridiculous and crazy, right? Like, and yet that's what essentially they're being told to do in screenwriting.
Let me explain what I'm doing. Even though I just did that 5 minutes ago.
Even though you
it was
can
the
see
last
me
thing
doing
I did.
It.
Let me explain
You can see me doing it. I'm going to explain it anyway, right? Like stupid. So stupid. Which is weird because at times West Wing has these like long monologue-y things where characters have to explain things to other characters that they may actually already know or whatever, like, but they have to do it because the audience doesn't know it, because the political things often the audience doesn't understand, right? And so it's interesting to hear them do that. But what they're not doing is like narrating, well, I'm doing this, so that they're doing it so that you can understand the politics. It's very interesting. You're right. It's a very interesting dynamic. But yeah, go watch it. You'll enjoy it. I promise. That's all we have for you this week. And we'll be back again next week with more Royals Weekly. If you want even more, subscribe to that Royals Weekly Substack, royalsweekly.substack.com. Until next week, be good to each other.
And go Royals.